This is Charles, and I wanted to do a quick review of Arena Games rule set. I have I'm using the Ludus Gladiatorius 2 miniatures because it has a lion in there, and I think that's pretty awesome. They are pre-painted and they're pretty inexpensive. And also I'm using the board from Spartacus Blood and Sand board game, which it just looks really nice. So Arena Games rule set is very, very simple. You decide on which gladiator type that you want, and then if you look in the game rules, it'll tell you a lot of nice things here. And I'm just going to quickly flip through here some nice pictures. And again, this is a $10 download. One of the nice things they do is they go into the introduction of the background and the history of the gladiators and the gladiator types, and then they go into what were the characteristics of each gladiator, who fought whom. And this is kind of cool here because you can actually find out who were the typical gladiators who fought each other. So you decide what type of gladiator you want to fight, and the other guy will fight something else. And then you go through building a character. So like I said, you pick a gladiator, and then all gladiators start with 10 points initially for their initiative action. So that means a naked guy running across the field would come across with 10 points, but he would have no armor. So you pay for each armor individually. So as you buy armor, which is on page 4, you look at this chart and you'll pay different costs for different parts. So a helmet is one, an arm guard is one, a body armor chainmail is one, leg guards is one, and a shield is one. So you deduct those from your 10 starting points to get your this number right here, the initiative or the action points. Now your save points, what you roll to save against hits, will be the exact same number. So if you have a 5 or a 6 here, you'll probably have a 5 or a 6 here. If you play the campaign game, that number can change on the right. So you can roll, or different things can happen to modify that, but we won't really be getting into that. So there's a turn sequence where you roll for initiative, and you roll a die, and then you add that to your initiative action points. So if you start with 6 and you roll a 4, you have a total of 10 points to spend. So you'll put that under 10 AP. Let's see if I can find my sheet I did from last night. Pardon the mess. Oh, one thing I did do is in the rule book, I took half of this sheet, and rescanned it, so I have my quick reference sheet on the same page as my damage sheet. So you'll see my 5 and my 5 are at the top there, and my first roll I got a 6, so 6 plus 5 is 11, and then I allocate how many action points I use per turn or per phase at the top there. Now it does say combat phase, but combat phases are either movement or combat. So I mean, it's just basically spending AP. The word combat threw me off when I first saw it, so that kind of threw me. So like I said, you start with your starting 10. You subtract out your armor, and that's your final number, and you record this as your base action points. All parts of the body can take 5 points of damage. So if you're looking at the chart down here, you'll see everybody started with 5, but my body didn't have any armor, so I had to take 2 damage points immediately, and 2 from the... I have a helmet. So 2 for the body, and that's... So each part of the body listed on the sheet there can take 5 points of damage, unless it's not armored. So you can look at my unit and say, hey, he doesn't have an arm guard on it, so you'll take 2 damage points off of him. If he has a leather guard on it, you only take off 1. And if he's fully armored with steel, then he gets the full 5 points of damage. So as you roll your attacks, you're going to roll die, and you're going to have 1 die designated as the location die, and the other die is you start at 6 is your damage. So you only hit on 6s, and at the beginning of every game, you look at the bottom of this chart, you'll see 6s on the right hand side, and as you take a hit, each time you take a hit, you'll go down and down. You'll see the 6 changes to a 5, and then to a 4, and then a 2 to a 1. So you'll be getting less and less die as you take more damage. So We'll go over damage in just a second, but in essence, we'll roll a 2, which is the left arm. The left arm will take a hit of damage, and then we'll take 1 off our stamina. So we still get 6 for this turn, and then the next turn, if we take another hit, we'll keep hitting. Now, once you roll those die, you do damage, and then the opponent gets to do a saving throw. So if he rolls 5 or higher, or if I roll 5 or higher, I get to save. So if he gets 1 hit of damage against me, and I roll a d10 and I roll a 6, I'm good. All right. So now we go into movement, and looking at our player aid card here again, our cheat sheet. This is the one I made. All right, so you can see there's different costs for doing different things. So moving 1 AP any direction. So you don't have to change your facing as you're moving, but at the end of your movement you may want to change facing to get a better attack on somebody. So this is where you're attacking from helps. So if you're attacking from those front 3 hexes, you're fine on an attack. If you're attacking somebody from the side rear, you add +1 to their saving throw, which means it's less likely that they will pass if you do damage against them. And in the back is +2. So this is the combat system I really wanted to be in Spartacus Blood and Sand, but this game set, it really does have fun with the tactical part. So so you pay 1 AP for moving any direction 1 space, forward, backward, sideways, left, right. 1 AP for facing. So if you want to change which direction that you're facing, say that somebody snuck up behind you there, and you have enough actions points, you might want to spin that. I put a little dot right here in the front to indicate the front, so that's 1, 2 to change facing. And going back to this sheet, remember before, we had to allocate how many action points we're going to spend during this round. So it's turn 1, we rolled a 6, we have a total AP of 11, and I decided to allocate 2 of them in the first turn, or first phase, second phase, third phase, and last phase. Now typically when you concentrate on movement, you might want to do low, but I got into combat later on and the guy started right off with all 6. So the most you can do in this area is 6. You cannot do more than that. So even if you have all 11 AP, you can't just stand there and wail at somebody, and I'll show you how that works in just a second. So going back to combat, we talked about rolling the 1 red die for the body part and rolling the stamina dice in hits on 6s. And then each damage that you do, you take a hit on your stamina and you slowly lose dice, and it goes down. Some other options that you can do, going back to the reference sheet, are changing facing. We talked about that. Combat, it costs 1 AP to go into combat, and that's where your dice come in, what we talked about earlier from the bottom and stuff. You can throw your weapon. Now you have to roll a d10 to throw your weapon, but if you throw your weapon, you got to get it back. So you have to look at the chart here to figure that out. Escape from entanglement, that's for Rotarius. If he throws his net on you and is successful, you got to get out of it. And then remove a pole weapon. I'm assuming that's removing it from the ground. I haven't seen that happen yet, but so there's also charts here as far as special weapons and if you throw them, what you need to roll and things like that. So you'll have to buy the game to look at that. I don't want to give too much out about the game. And then the effects of losing damage points to the body. So if you lose all the damage points to your arm, you lose the effect of that arm, but you can drop your shield and switch your weapon over to that hand. If you lose both arms, you have to beg for mercy. 1 leg, you can only move 1 hex per combat phase. Both legs, you have to beg for mercy. Lose your body or your head, and you're killed immediately. So a typical phase would be, I'm going to do the 2-2-2 thing and just kind of show it here. So I have 2 action points. I'm going to go 1-2, and I am done for my phase. And it's his turn. He's going to go 1-2, and now it's my phase. I'm going to move 1, and I have another action point left, and I'm going to go ahead and attack him. So I'm going to roll 1 die plus 6. And 6 is hit. So we missed. And now it's his turn. He has 2 action points. I think we're on 3 now. And he'll do the same thing to me. And he rolled 2 hits. So there's 2 6s there. So I roll a saving throw. I need to roll a 5 or higher. Saved. And a 10. So I'm good. Both hits miss me. And we go on to the next round. Now, something that happens now after both players have gone is the lion. Now I'm going to have to read the rules again to remember how the lion comes in. But he rolls a die. And on a 1 or a 2, he goes in this hex. On a, depends on where he's facing. On a 3 or 4, he goes here. And on a 5 or a 6, he goes here. So he goes to 2, and he goes 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He turns and faces the nearest opponent. 7, 8. So you don't want to be the guy in between the lion and the attacker, because what happens is as you do an attack on somebody and you have a successful hit, another thing that happens is that player will have to back up 1 space. Well, if you're adjacent to that lion when you back up, you got to take a hit from that lion. So let's say it's the next phase. We're going to do the same thing, like both players have initiative AP of 8, and we'll play around with this some. So I'm going to use 4 in this turn to try and get behind my enemy. So I'm going to go, let's do here. 1, 2. So that's my 2. And now it's his turn. He can attack me there, or he can back up 1, and then turn, and that's his 2. Alright, so now it's my turn. I'm going to attack with my 2, and I will roll an attack. We've got 2 hits. He rolls a saving throw of 5 or higher. He failed, so that's 1 hit of damage. He has to back up. Now, if I had action points left, I could advance and attack again. So I would pay 1 for the advance, but I don't. So I only allocated 2. There's no way for me to do it. So he's going to back up, and then it's going to be his turn. And for his action points, he's going to move up 1 and attack. So he rolled no hits, and that's the end of his turn. A lot of back and forth going on. A lot of fun when this lion comes into the game. I wouldn't play this game without lions, and I actually would like to see another lion added to the game, just because that randomness of running, that lion coming up behind you is pretty terrible. But it's a really fun game, and I hope you get a chance to play it. It's available $10 online. I'll see if I can post a link for it, and I hope you have a good day.